Good morning and welcome back to the Explicit Measures podcast with Tommy and Mike. Good morning, everyone, and good morning, Tommy. How you doing?
Yeah, good morning, Mike. How you doing?
It's so okay. So just caveat for people who are listening: this is a recorded episode. We're doing this one actually at night, but I'm so used to seeing this screen with Tommy and I on this. I can literally doesn't even matter. I just say the words now. It's like I know it's a good morning. It's Tommy. We're here. We're talking. We're having fun. We were already talking before the episode.
I know
These night episodes when we record them, Tommy, I think they're spicy. Honestly. Okay. The reason I think these are a bit more spicy is because we've had a whole day to think. We're like up. We're getting a little slap happy. It's in the evening. It's on, man. This is going to be a fun episode.
Man, the life of a consultant. It's late for us, and you're right. I think we've had a day.
Yeah, 7:45 is late for us. We're ready to go to bed.
If it was 7, it would be great if it was 7:45. But listen, we're already just in that mode of like I'm exhausted, but at the same time I'm still on. So I cannot wait for this one. So
awesome. Well, let's get into the main topic for today, and then we'll go through some news or beat from the street things, kind of some things we're observing around Fabric. Let's talk about SQL, the new features around SQL. So we have a Fabric SQL database. Let's talk a little bit about that. What does this look like for getting into Fabric? We have this SQL endpoint. There's actually a great article here by, I think it's Ancy Phillip. I'll go with that. She writes a wonderful blog around how we're going from preview into GA. What is that going to look like? What are some coming soon features, case of insensitive information. We're going to talk about some other varchar max, our favorite, right? So, oh man, this is so exciting. We're going to get really in the details. But anyways, we're going to talk about this blog post here coming out here. What is Fabric and SQL? We'll kind of unpack this a little bit as we go through the episode today. All right, Tommy. With that, any kind of news items that you have, Tommy? Anything that's going on in your world that's interesting?
No, I think I heard you got something, my friend. So, we were
two things actually. Now that I'm thinking about it.
Okay, we were talking offline. I'm like, save it, because
all right, we'll save it.
Dive in. So
let me do the fun one first, and then we'll do a little bit more of the real world technology one. Okay, first off, I gotta say congratulations. So this is a record episode. Congratulations to the Brewers for winning 12 in a row. I had to just rub this one in there a little bit. I was seeing all kinds of memes today that the Brewers have completed their 12th win in a row, and which is putting the Cubs even further behind in the series altogether.
Again,
I know. Not your team, but you're in the area. I gotta rib you a little.
Anyways, and it's crazy. So it's fun when you actually, let's tie this in. So the Brewers are actually what would be considered a small town team from a salary point of view. So correct. They're a phenomenon, them and the Rays, because they use analytics like no one.
Who?
The Rays, the Tampa Rays.
Okay.
They're not even playing in their own. They're playing in a spring training stadium because they're Hurricanes. They have no money, and yet the Rays have been consistently one of the best teams in baseball, or competitive wise, despite having one of the lowest salaries. I think one of the stats is their whole team makes up a single player. I forgot which player, and you think about this, data is taking over, and there is something to be said. I think we're in the mindset that data can do everything. Baseball has a little of like, I lean towards more of it's the I and the data test. Like you gotta see, but there is this, I mean, listen, we're living in an age now where I think we have said it for a ton. There's more data in the world than there's going to be created in the next 2 years.
Yeah, it's exponential. We're growing so fast.
Yeah.
And now all this trash AI junk that we're getting thrown at these days. Like, I mean, every other day. Have you been watching your YouTube Shorts feed, Tommy? Have you not been seeing like the plethora?
So close to throwing
proliferation
because
I think I was missing the two words together. Proliferation and plethora together. The proliferation of all the YouTube shorts from the Power BI Tips Explicit Measures podcast.
I have seen that.
Well, thank you, AI. Thank you for helping me make easier shorts faster. Let's go, baby. So the reason you have a bajillion of these things in your YouTube feed now is because AI is making it easier for me to make content from us talking over here. So that's all that's doing is taking 1 hour long form piece of content and making like 13 little small minute pieces of content as well. This is how it's going to go. We're going to have all pieces of content now.
The fact that we are not syndicating in all 300 languages across the world yet is on us. Because that's
don't worry.
now too.
Don't worry.
We can do that right now.
YouTube's already doing it. YouTube's already added the AI
with our cadence. Like we could literally start.
Tommy, we cannot. Don't, Tommy. We're gonna get canceled. We're gonna cancel us. You can't start using other languages on the podcast. We'll get canceled so fast.
Have AI now, where you can actually sound like us in our temperament, in our cadence, except we're speaking a different language.
All right. At some point, Tom, we should take the whole show and put it into Italian. Go find an AI, Tommy. Take one of our episodes and put the whole thing. I will sit down and popcorn eat a whole episode with you, Tommy, and we can watch it. And when we do the whole episode in Italian, that'd be hilarious.
We'll take that on the road, Southern Italy. That would be perfect. So
mangia.
All right. So, well, yes, congratulations to the Brewers. They are doing great for a small town team.
Sure.
Use the numbers to make it work.
Now, Tommy, you are pretty close by. I also know, have you heard of George Webb?
George Webb, yes.
The restaurant, right?
Yeah.
And not the person. I don't know if there's probably a person named George Webb, but the restaurant George Webb. Apparently, the Brewers' 12th straight win means George Webb will give away a free burger giveaway. So there's free hamburgers at George Webb, and I guarantee you there's going to be some dingbat who's going to go to every single store, like literally make a trail and hit every single George Webb and get like multiple burgers from this thing.
Is that just a Wisconsin place?
It's in Wisconsin. Yeah.
Chicago.
Free George Webb burgers are coming.
Oh.
They already announced it. If you follow their Twitter page, we're buzzing with the excitement. We're working hard to prepare. Please note, burgers will not be ready right away. A special giveaway date will be announced with all the details. Stay tuned.
Whoa. Well, we need the Cubs to go on a streak. Shoot.
Well, I'm thinking
pillows.
That's what I'm saying, Tommy. You might need to make a quick trip up to your. Here's what I will commit to you. If I can get the details on the George Webb thing, Tommy, and we can kind of get things situated here, I would meet you halfway at a George Webb somewhere, and we should just have a burger, take a picture, and go home. Like that's what we're gonna.
I'm going to do you one better. We're going to do a live show at a George Webb. I don't know.
No, we're not doing a live show at a George Webb.
With free burgers. We'll get an audience.
This content will just have gone downhill way too fast. We're not allowed to do that.
Okay.
Anyways, that's enough of the fun brewer stuff. So that was my fun thing. The other thing I want to talk to you a little bit about here is I went to go after. So this is a beat from the street. Okay. Some experience that I had that kind of surprised me. And I'm just going to ask you, have you done this yet, Tommy? Tommy, have you made a Fabric SQL database?
SQL. Yeah. I'm at the max capacity.
You've already maxed it out. Okay. Yeah. You've made all the ones. They're like, stop.
I made all the ones.
You should probably just make more schemas in your existing databases instead of making more.
Have you tried a warehouse? I got that pop up.
Okay, good. All right. So you've maxed out your Fabric capacity. Have you tried to connect through Power BI Desktop to those SQL databases using the OneLake connector?
So not only that, but I've actually done that. So with the OneLake connector, actually, I see what you're saying. I've used the SQL database connection.
Okay.
Just the straight SQL, right?
Not
and
wrong.
I've done that in Power Apps, works great.
Yep. Not wrong. Not wrong at all. This is just a different way to connect to it. I'm asking a different question. So Tommy, I'm thinking like you would. I would normally go into the SQL database. I'd go, okay, let's go find the SQL connection. It's a super long connection string. And then I would connect to it. And then I'd get all the stuff. Well, surprise, surprise. All these SQL databases come with automatic mirroring to tables. Did you know this?
Automatic mirroring.
Okay, so when you build a SQL database, a Fabric SQL database, you have one side of the database that's transactional. You can like edit rows, all the things, normal SQL database things. But what happens is there's an automatic setup where the SQL database is automatically mirroring those tables down into a mirrored table structure that is all Delta Lake, all Delta. So today, this is like, I'm today years old when I found out you could do this. You can go into Power BI Desktop. You can click the OneLake catalog button, go down to the preview option that says Fabric, click connect, And then it asks you to, where do you want to put the semantic model in the service?
Oh, so you can edit the semantic, you can create that semantic model on desktop, but you're doing that with a database.
I'm doing it with a SQL database. And so the interesting thing here, so two things are interesting to me. This is something I've never seen before in desktop. This is brand new. I was like, ooh, I like this experience. So first one was, it was easy to connect to the SQL database. Second thing was, the Delta table is behind that SQL database and it's mirroring. I learned this from Alex Powers today, which was awesome. He's a really smart dude and I love learning from him. But in addition to that, it made the semantic model, but it didn't make it in my local PBIX file. My PBIX file locally was a thin report. It made the semantic model. It created the whole semantic model in the service from my desktop.
Right.
What? That was crazy.
You're talking about the feature that I don't. Oh, we had her on the podcast once. My name's failing to remember.
Carly?
Yes, Carly. We had Carly.
Maybe Carly.
On. Carly
or Emily. It was Emily, maybe.
Yeah, Emily. She met us when we were doing the Ignite reaction.
Yep. Yes.
But she announced a few months back about doing this with OneLake, with a lake house.
Same thing, same concept.
Semantic model. Yeah.
Yes.
And there's no file to save.
Nope.
Which it really throws you through a loop.
Well, right? I'm used to building in desktop, and I'm used to having the entire semantic model there in desktop, but I'm editing locally. In reality, what it was doing, it was actually saying, set the name for the semantic model, pick the workspace that it will live in. And so it makes the connection to the tables. One, it was awesome, very easy. Here's the SQL database, pick the tables you want, bing, 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 pick. All the tables just appear in the semantic model, very quick and easy. And the best part was, it wasn't connecting using the SQL endpoint. It was using the direct lake tables to get to the semantic model. So with a couple clicks, this was just brilliant. I thought the experience was very nice, very seamless, super smooth. So, hey, SQL team and semantic model team, nice job. You guys dialed this experience in. It felt like super smooth to me. It made a ton of sense. Go here, connect to SQL data warehouse, pick the tables I want, drop the semantic model, boom, I'm off to the races. I'm making measures. It was very seamless. I thought, yes. And even though I was working in desktop, all this stuff worked in the service. It was all service-based. The only thing I was building locally was a little bit of the semantic model measures and relationships. But everything, the whole semantic model was already landed and working in the service.
Okay, I got a question for you because this needs to be raised. And let me preface this with, I love the feature, the experience, and I've only done this with the Lakehouse, with the SQL Analytics endpoint, not a database.
Yep.
But I think I'm feeling this feeling of a bone to pick with this, because it's the same exact experience with the Lakehouse to do that. You're describing the same exact thing. So with all of these things now, with Warehouse, with the SQL Analytics endpoint in the Lakehouse, and now a database, what's the difference between any of them?
Not. That's the point, though.
Right. Is that the point?
I think it is the point. I think the point is, it doesn't matter whether you're connecting to the Lakehouse, the Warehouse, or the SQL Analytics endpoint. So I think the unifying thing for me is there's a Delta table somewhere. Yeah. Right. And so if you want the real-time data directly from your SQL database, you need to go direct lake or direct query. You can't go direct lake. So direct lake there's some bit of lag or lead time between but this makes sense. Think of it this way. The closer I can put my operational database right next to my Delta table storage database, if I can put those two things side by side so they're almost seamless, the transactional system can work as fast as it needs to. And every 5 minutes, every hour, it's just synchronizing the records down to my Lakehouse Delta tables or the Lakehouse tables that support the SQL. This makes a ton of sense to me. I'm on board. If you could let me run my operational stuff and just have it sync easily to my semantic models. Done.
And so I agree with the feature, but what I'm saying is, there's no different, so then what's the best practice, Mike? Is it a SQL database or is it a Lakehouse if I can do the same exact thing?
Oh yeah. It's definitely use Cosmos DB. Don't use any of that stuff.
Oh yeah. That's what I meant. KQL. Sorry.
KQL all the way. Yeah, that's all you do.
This is
you're
crazy.
Right. It's insane. And now it's becoming less of a technology barrier. So for me right now, right, it's now more of, what do you know? What are you comfortable with? And so we had this conversation on Tuesday last week around what do you pick, lake house or warehouse? And I thought Brad's comments were like spot on, right? The technology is getting so good, it doesn't really matter which one you need. There may be like some nuancy things like, hey, if you have like semi-structured data, you may want to start with a notebook. But ultimately, you're trying to get to tables anyways. So you may want to start really considering using the warehouse and using that to give you the performance that you need. So as I think about this ecosystem, like, yeah, I like this. If your team likes notebooks and is a data science, data engineering realm, great. Keep doing notebooks. You don't have to upskill your team to something brand new to keep going. Oh, by the way, Tommy, you guys love SQL databases? No problem. We had this whole warehouse and SQL database experience. Just keep doing that. And if those things are price comparable roughly for what you're doing,
the only thing I was going to say.
Right? So as long as they're roughly the same price, even if I'm paying a bit more premium for one or the other side of these things, right? If your team already knows that knowledge, which is more expensive? Is it more expensive to run the infrastructure for slightly more? Or is it better just to keep the skills in your team that they already know and have to retool and retrain people or hire more new people who don't know the skill? Like, I would argue the skilling up of your individual team is the more expensive cost here.
Oh yeah, I mean, here's the only concern now. We're getting to a point where all the lines between these products, and I'm almost going to quotations at this being product.
Air quotes.
Yeah,
Air quotes.
It's almost a single product, but the difference is, and my concern is, with all the features being acting exactly the same, is the infrastructure is still different. And the cost is still different, right? If you use a database, a warehouse, or a lake house, even though if you're going to do the semantic model, I imagine the cost is still different. So that's something to be aware of as of right now. Because my first, right?
Well, it's good. It
has to be a concern.
It's a different infrastructure. It's a different architecture. Like they will have advantages in certain areas. Like this is, I mean, back to your point, Tommy, if there was only one database that was needed for everything, we'd only have one database for everything. There wouldn't be like this semi-structured database. You wouldn't have this, like, each one of these database systems are trying to solve a problem that's kind of unique to like their area. Like Kusto, real time, high volume, lots of little measurements, right? Cosmos, and that Cosmos DB is now in preview. You can like, well, what's that for? Like JSON, structured, semi-structured, like all this other stuff, right? And then so now you have databases, and SQL is really good at what it does. And so each of these things have kind of been tuned for what they're good at. Notebooks, lake houses, like high volume, big batch loads, MPP processing. Each one of them are designed to do their own thing, and it would be nice for the tool just to solve all these problems and pick the best tool at the right time. But I know that that's not the case. And so until we get to a world where the AI can just do all this for you, right? And say, hey, look, AI, I'm going to give you an image. Okay, it knows what storage engine to pick to do that. Hey, AI, I'm going to give you a structured table out of a SQL database. It's just going to say, oh, yeah, we know how to do that. And it's just going to handle it and store it where it needs to be most efficiently or cost effectively.
Well, we're getting to the point, Mike, and I don't want to speak too ahead of things, but it sounds like to me, Microsoft's even looking at these individual products and saying, oh, well, warehouse is for structured data and lake house is for unstructured. They're like, well, why can't a warehouse do unstructured if we just implement X, Y, and Z? We're really blurring the lines with each of these different infrastructures here, man.
But yes, I agree. And I agree with your sentiment. And I think I also echo this, but on the other hand, I'm like, we should be blurring the lines. I do think this makes sense, right?
Oh, I would agree. They can all have the same features.
Yeah. Let's store all the semi or non-structured data in files area or in a lakehouse thing, but then let's put pointers inside a database that's really good at what it does. Right. I don't know if do you follow DuckDB at all?
Yes. Yeah.
So I follow Mim on Twitter, and Mim on Twitter talks a lot about the Legend of Mim. Oh, that would be a great shirt, like a Legend of Mim. Yeah, I like that. But Mim does this thing where he just starts talking about DuckDB, and I think there's like LakeDB as well. And so the Duck Lake DB. Careful. Almost got censored there. Duck Lake DB databases or something like that. There's something like there that is in there as well. But the idea is it's mixing part of the big data side of things with a SQL server or the Duck database as the SQL side-esque type of thing. So if you put these two pieces together, like the Delta Parquet side with all the structure and the files and the massive parallel processing, but then you join it with like, hey, we need a lot of like metadata that supports all these different files. If you blend these two really good systems, the updating and inserting of records is really good on the SQL side, but then the semi-unstructured data is really good on the database lakehouse side. Like you put those two together, it's like this really powerful combination. And to your point, Tommy, I think this is what we're going to get to. We're going to find that these data systems need multiple different kinds of engines to do different things at different points. And it's now like, instead of just building a fish, we're now able to build an octopus that has all these different legs that do different things for whatever they need to be done. I don't know. Rough analogy.
I was like, this is going to long walk to.
Instead of getting a fork, we get a spork.
Yeah. No, but I think this is the cool, man. I don't think a lot of us appreciate where we're going with this. Like, it's nice to see the features come out, but again, if you were to talk about this stuff 5 years ago with a warehouse and a lake house and a database, I mean, again, different skill sets, different services to try to get your data in. It took, you had to have a certain route. Now it's like, well, you can kind of do either one works and you can get in all three almost. So this is really cool. This is, I did not know that about the database, but I'm going to try that out.
You should definitely check it out. It was kind of a cool experience. I thought it was really neat. I liked how seamless it was. Yeah. Again, Microsoft, good job, on point. You're making it easy to get in and out of the SQL database. I was very skeptical when the SQL database showed up. I was like, I don't know. I'm not sure if I'm going to like it. Why keep your transactional crap out of my data warehouse like side of things? Get it out of here. But now that I'm looking at it, I'm thinking, okay, I'm warming up to it. Like, I've always liked SQL. It's a good language. I didn't really like how long it took me to write every single stinking statement, but I'm getting better at it. And now that Copilot's there, I can just have it fix all my bad errors when I can't find a cast. I can't cast a value correctly, or, I need an additional, formatting of something. Like, just let Copilot figure it out.
My days of SSMS, man, and doing that,
gone.
Google searches. Hey, let me ask you this, and this will maybe be a transition as we go into it, but from a SQL point of view, how much do you go to Stack Overflow anymore?
Zero. Never.
Zero. How much did you used to?
A good amount of time. I would actually enter in the URL and go there and go to it. I will say this. I was just doing some comparisons on the website recently. And to your point, Tommy, I go to Copilot now. Like, I go to Copilot, or I don't have ChatGPT. So if ChatGPT was in my browser, I think I would use it more. I just don't have it there. I use Grok a little bit, but I think my go-to right now for most of my coding type questions, Copilot's good enough. It gets me what I need done. I don't need Copilot to write me an entire app. Now, I will say this. Well, not that I don't try. I do use, but that, to me, that feels like VS Code. Like, that's what I'm going there to build like stuff, right? If I'm just trying to get like a Python function out, or I want to get a little SQL statement solved, I'm going to like Copilot. That seems to be good enough to get me done, right? I will say this though, as every so often I need an iframe, and I need to test an iframe just for whatever reason. Today I was playing with Excel. You can embed Excel in a website page. I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool. Interesting. You can just embed an Excel sheet into anywhere you want. Cool. And then I was looking at it going, it lets me save and share this iframe thing. Okay, well, how do I build? So what you need like a little bit of HTML page. Open up VS Code, start a file, blank file, just type in test.html, go to the agent, fire up Claude, and be like, all right, Claude, I need a simple web page with an iframe in it. Boom. It writes 300 lines of code, some styling, some simple stuff. I want it to be this width, this height. Boom, done. I just paste in my code and it works. Like, what?
Sorry, this is going to be a little off topic, but this is so cool. I have a bunch of local models that I write notes on. I want to modify. I have like kind of like categories, and I was trying to deal with it in something I downloaded from GitHub. It was like a Gradio app, so like all Python.
Yep.
Like, well, I could cut. I wonder if just AI can take care of this. So Cursor, the IDE I use,
love Cursor, so
and
good.
Anthropic, Max, all that. And I have this full app that I can. It just starts when my computer runs, and it's a local, local host, whatever. But it's all HTML, some little JavaScript, a little Python, and it has the like a logo for each of the models. I have my notes if I want to modify something. It's created these filters. It's created some rich interactive features. We are at a point with, I mean, listen, as soon as we plug this into data agents and the other things we're trying to do, if you want to build something really deeply embedded with something in Power BI, there's not a lot stopping you. You know what's stopping you? Time. It's the time to spend the actual time in these products where, Mike, we're at a point where there's no excuses. Like, it really is. We talked about this initially. AI is not going to take our jobs away. No. Someone who knows AI will take your job away. And that's where we're getting to.
Yes, you are 100% on point with that, because I think that is spot on. It won't be the people who are going to take your job. It's not going to be. It's not going to be the AI. It's going to be someone who's learned how to use AI better than you and knows how to debug it better and use it better and prompt better. Like, that's way more of a threat than the AI itself.
Do you know what I've done some mornings? I've had my GitHub workspace open. I know I had some bugs on my Tyndall. And before I even get my coffee, I said, hey, can you debug this? I know there's syntax errors, and add some descriptions. And then I go get my coffee. I go upstairs, then I come down. It's done. And boom. It's insane. It's insane.
I'm working with our developers right now on projects, and we are writing code. We're building things, and they're like, we're all using AI agents to help us build some of these codes and things, and it's working. It's great, not a problem. But at the end of the project now, the most dreaded part of every consulting project is you hand the code back over to the client, and the client's like, great, you handed me a bunch of code. I don't understand any of it. Where's the comments? Commented code. And I'm like, yeah, no problem. Yeah, no problem. So anytime we hand code back, we rip it through an AI. All right, tell your guys, here's all my code. Here's the spec that it came from, or whatever you're using. Here's the language. Like, it's in Python. It's in M. It's like, here's a website that talks about the M. Go through this and comment every line. Comment what this code is doing. Add sections like this. Before every function, describe what the function does in a general term. Describe the inputs. Describe the outputs. Like, this is a prompt that you should be using on everything. Duh.
All right, I'm going to ask you a question. I know they're tied together, and then we'll get to the thing. If you had to choose one or the other at this point in your life, YouTube and the internet or AI, if you had to pick one.
I mean, you wouldn't have.
I know they're tied. I know they're tied.
I know. You wouldn't have the AIs wouldn't exist without the YouTube and the internet.
I understand.
I'm going to answer this question purely because how I've gotten here it is today, right? I don't see a world that could have AI without YouTube and the internet. Just let me just start there. Like that, okay, to me,
I agree.
It doesn't. It's like, can you build a car without the pieces? Like, that doesn't even make sense. Like, there's no way this would, it wouldn't happen, right? Would we have cars if there was no one ever invented gasoline? Like, no, we wouldn't.
I know.
So it's a very tough question to answer. I would say I'm going to have to go with the YouTube and the internet. I think those have been pivotal, and they have shaped and formed a lot of great, like that has formed a lot of what's happening here. AI is interesting, but I don't think AI would have been, like, if you took the YouTube and the internet away, let's just say we had really smart computers with no internet attached to them. Right. How would they ever learn? Where would we get all this information from? How do we collect?
So yeah,
like it would be so much slower. You'd have to go through all these books and other, so I don't think you could have one without the other. Now, if you give me AI and I have the choice, okay, so let's imagine we're in the world we are right now. I have the internet and YouTubes, and I have the AIs. I think I'm going to maybe choose the AI, maybe a little bit. It's interesting. The stuff that people are creating with it is so creative, and it fills in a lot of gaps that the internet was not good at, and coding is not good at. At the end of the day, this all feels so Star Trek to me. Like that's what I look at this. This all just feels so Star Trek, because it's I'm looking at this and going, when you're on a spaceship in Star Trek, all they're doing is like, computer, do this, computer, do that, computer, things. Like they just say stuff to
Data, yeah.
There was a guy that was the early Star Trek.
Yeah.
I'm talking about like the newer, like now they're like yes, but like they have computers now. Like it's these full things that are like. So I'm looking at this going like there's an entire computer built into a ship that the ship is the computer basically, and it can do all these AI things all over the place, and it's generating this stuff on demand when you need it. All this information. I mean, that's where we're at right now. I mean, right now I feel like we're in this space. The only thing I do is I just type to it right now. At some point, I'm just going to talk to it, and it just works. Dude, it's crazy, Tommy. The world we live in right now, it's going to be 5 years from now, even 2 years from now. It's going to be vastly different than where we're at right now.
I'm just happy sometimes I have AC. So, in these August months,
whoever made the snowblower and air conditioning should get like a Nobel Prize every year because it's just hot.
Forget AI. Yeah, just thank goodness I have a snowblower. All right, I think we need to get to the topic because we're doing that late night thing.
Oh, we are. We're definitely rambling here much more than we should be. But all right, Tommy, let's go through the article here. What's new and coming in SQL Analytics Endpoint? And I kind of alluded to this already. I was kind of talking a little bit about the SQL Analytics Endpoint, how I'm interacting with it. Again, I just learned that stuff today. It's been out since April. I did not know, end of April. So there you go. All right, give us an overview, Tommy. What do you want to talk about in this article?
So this is a pretty minor article. It really talks about what's new and what's coming around, not just the database, but the endpoint, again, which is available in a warehouse, in a lakehouse, and as we know now, in a database. And to me, Mike, I want to have this conversation because I really think the idea of the endpoint is underutilized with a lot of people right now in Fabric. It's it's nice to have, or it's there, but I think what you mentioned in the beginning with the beat on the street is this endpoint does a lot more than just sit there and connect anything. Now, that's probably the biggest feature is this ability to, query anything in one lake, but it solves so much. And one thing we love to see is a huge part what Microsoft's working on. So Mike, let's kind of set the stage here and let me just ask you the question. Why such the big focus right now do you think Microsoft's having on SQL integration with Fabric? And again, not just databases here. We're talking about the ability to query anything in one lake seems to be a hard drumbeat by Microsoft.
Dude, 100%. Why? I mean, this is Microsoft's bread and butter, honestly. Yeah. Like, who runs more SQL than Microsoft at this point? Like there's other databases that are out there and Amazon's pushing its version of NoSQL-esque. They've got like MongoDB and they've got some SQL-esque things. But I mean, AWS is on like the MySQL space with whatever their Aurora database, Aurora DB, whatever that is. Anyways, everyone's got a flavor of this. Like, let's be honest. When I was arguing with a data scientist a while ago, and he was like, "Oh yeah, well we do a ton of Scala. Scala's the way to go. Like it's on Spark. It's going to be the future. All this thing." I'm like, "Is it really? Like I'm not sure I buy into that." And kind of was like the idea of like you realize like most of the world runs on top of SQL. Like everything. Like doesn't matter. Like if it's MySQL, it's a slightly different flavor. Oracle's got its own flavor. T-SQL, like all these. Most of them, there's so much out there. And I know for a fact there are entire companies that run off Access databases, like the entire company. So I've seen it. I know it's out there. It may not still live. They may not be doing great anymore. I don't know, but I've seen it. So I look at this going like, this is why Microsoft is doubling down with this, right? Let's look at the, we have a Power BI ecosystem that is very familiar with Excel. Let's call it, we've got 1 billion user in Excel. If we then flip over to the other side of that hat or that card and say, okay, well, of those 1 billion users of using Excel, how many of them or how many other more individuals are also writing SQL at some level? Is there another 1 billion of people writing SQL on things? So, 2/7 of the world's population is covered by Excel and SQL languages. Like that's huge. Wow. So if you think about the scale of this, like it's got to be done. You've got to figure out how to make this stuff work in these ecosystems. And I think all you're doing is you're bringing the story of the SQL developer closer to where Fabric is and getting them more comfortable building in that space.
So I think you're going a little too hard there saying the SQL developer, because Mike, back in the day, SQL before Power BI, like that was something I had to learn just working in analytics. And I wasn't a SQL developer. I had SSMS, but that was the query. But I wasn't building tables or doing jobs or doing the integration in SSIS for those who know, right? Yeah. But still, to your point, it's a large group of people who are using SQL, and we almost went away from it with Power BI. Not that I didn't use it, but I didn't need to. I didn't have to be an expert in it, right? And it wasn't something I had to do on a daily basis.
Well, I'm going to challenge you there a bit. You use SQL just enough to get it into Power BI, and then you wrote DAX.
I would completely agree with that. I used it just enough.
Just enough to get it started.
Yeah. Just enough,
just a little pinch of SQL,
just a bit of salt kind of thing, but no more, right? But like, because I didn't have to. Now I could, and there were definitely ways that you can utilize it. But I would challenge too, for a lot of Power BI developers, Power BI users, you didn't have to know SQL, or if you were in a managed self-service space, you didn't have to do SQL at all. And it was funny because I feel like we're almost, I got another t-shirt for you. It's a coming back to SQL now with Fabric, where it's almost like this return to the language, where you and I have talked, probably the largest language you and I have talked about, coding language on the podcast the last year. I'm going to probably say it's Python. We probably talked about notebooks the most. And dare I say that's a bit misleading, because here's the thing, Mike. Yes, the integration side of things is huge, but SQL runs the world. And if we have assumed that, and the fact that every single product that we have talked about now has an endpoint that you can query, and Microsoft's pushing this idea of querying anything in one lake, but it's not through Power BI, it's through SQL. So almost giving everyone a base SQL language is almost more powerful than giving someone a base Python language or skill. Or more importantly, you can do more with the base SQL understanding than you could with a base Power BI understanding. Not saying I agree with that, but there's an argument there right now.
I definitely feel like I'm seeing your points, though, Tommy. I just would argue that there's a lot of people running SQL in the world.
Yeah.
So much so that they made an entire event called SQL Saturdays.
Oh, right? Right. Which was,
and they have Fabric Fridays and SQL Saturdays. And which day of the week is Power BI? Crickets? Yes. There's no like Power BI Mondays. Like I haven't heard those yet. So think about like the like data engineering is really large. People are going to get more data. And to your point, Tommy, like the world's just not going to stop and be like, oh, we've completed it. We've made enough data. Right. We're done. We're not going to make any more. Like every day, I was just on. You used to manage websites, Tommy, so you'll get a kick out of this one. I think a little bit. There's a number of different analytics tools you can use on the internet for things, just in general. Hold on, I got to sneeze here. Hold on. Okay, I think I sneezed. The Google Analytics is one of them, but it's not the only tool to do web analytics. Adobe's got its own product as well. And then Microsoft has its product called Clarity. And so when you look at this volume of web traffic, I was showing one of my developers today. I was like, hey, it'd be really cool to have this Clarity thing and this web app that we're building. And he was like, whoa, oh, wow, that's really neat. And Clarity was able to watch the mouse of the user on the website go around. And then on every page on the website, you could have a heat map of where every user clicked on that page. So you know which areas were the hottest areas or which ones are the most clickable on the page. And so there's just the fact that people are on a website and every little click, mouse movement, tracking, all that can be digested into information that can be tracked. This is incredible. Like there's that that volume of data, if just you're alive, you're making more data.
Right.
And we're having every app or all these apps that you're interacting with just make this volume of much more data. So anyways, I just look at this going like, there's so much information here. Something's got to be done to build this language. We've got to be able to query this really big pile of data and figure out how to best move it into systems that we can look at it and aggregate it. That's what we're doing here. And this is
right.
Part of this will be just, it's SQL. It's a standard. It's just going to be there.
Let me ask you a question, because I think the way I'm reading the article, and again, a direction we're heading, not saying I can agree with this. So I'm just saying it's an argument to be made. We've talked about the semantic model being kind of the elevated platform for whatever you're doing in Fabric. But there's an argument here about SQL and the analytics endpoint kind of being that area of kind of your gold standard. And the semantic model is just a level below that. Not saying that you don't do semantic models. However, this REST API they're talking about, the ability that you can keep all your data in sync with the REST API for all your data. And again, and that each product creates a semantic or creates a SQL endpoint. To me, Mike, I'm looking at the future here, and I'm looking at what we're doing with the endpoint. And to me, I'm almost making an argument in my head. Well, gosh darn it, shouldn't we focus on giving people the ability to the endpoint, not necessarily the semantic model as the first off? Because the semantic model is tabular, it's analytical, it's not transactional by nature, right? And the SQL Analytics endpoint, I can do a ton with that. I can put it in an app for consumption. I could put it in an AI app for cross modification. Semantic model is great for what it does, but the endpoint almost does more. So let me pose that kind of pun query to you, just about this idea of where's Microsoft going here when you think of Fabric. Is it the endpoint or is it the semantic model?
So I'm gonna lean on what, again, this is not me making this up. This is me pulling information from people that are way smarter than I am. Marco Russo got super bent on social media recently.
I don't want to argue with Marco. No,
I'm not arguing with Marco. Marco has seen this stuff longer than I have. I really value his opinion and his impression of things. So I'll definitely say Marco Russo has, in one of his recent articles, he made a post on YouTube, and I believe he was talking with or had listened to the podcast from P3, Rob Colley, who's the gentleman who did Excel and Power Pivot, all the things for
right.
Yep, that's him. Yeah. So Rob Colley wrote his book around all those things with Avi Shing. But he said this idea, consultants are now saying, like, abandon the semantic model. Don't use the semantic model. Go right to these flat, wide tables. That's what the AIs need to go figure out things. And Rob was just like, this is totally wrong and not the right way to think about this. The AIs don't need that. The AIs need context and descriptions and relationships and measures and calculations. What is important? Usage data. Like, the models need more context to what users will find that is interesting, so the AI can make better decisions around what data is presented. And I totally would agree with him. So is Microsoft abandoning the semantic model or moving away from it in favor of APIs and endpoints? No, absolutely not. All the stuff I'm reading in this article feels to me like this is more of like a story to the data engineer. Hey, data engineers, we've had problems with you making a lakehouse table and the delay between the lakehouse table getting into the SQL database or having it refreshing the metadata, right? Pulling in the latest version, right? You may be changing that lakehouse table every 5 minutes. The SQL endpoint is not recognizing that for 15 minutes, right? So you're trying to make a transaction change, and the SQL database, you're expecting it to be immediate after you make the change, because you would see that in a notebook. Again, Microsoft is biting themselves in the foot here to some degree, because what's happening is the lakehouse and notebook experience is what I would expect. In cell 1, I write the data down, save the table. In cell 2, I read said table, and the data comes back in the model, and it's right. It's exactly what I wrote. What this first API call is addressing here is, I write data to the lakehouse, I immediately read that data with the SQL endpoint, and I'm like, wait a minute, that's still the wrong data. That's the old data. How long does it take the metadata to refresh to go get the new definition, to get the new tables? So there's still some automation mechanics here that's not actually working, where you would have expected the SQL to immediately read the most recent version of the table, and in fact it is not. It's caching, it's doing something to make it fast, but in doing that, it's delaying the time between when the lakehouse tables are written and what the SQL Analytics endpoint can pick them up as. So that's how I read this article.
Yeah.
It's like, look, data engineers, we're going to make your world better for you. Just stay tuned.
This may be a bit of a hot take, but to me, there's then two options. There's two routes that we have to take. We either have to expand our definition of what the semantic model is, because if I were to ask you the business definition, or actually, let me rephrase that, the business purpose of the semantic model in the age of Fabric, right? What that is, or what it's meant for, compared to the business purpose of having a SQL endpoint is in Fabric. What are those definitions? And I'll start, so I won't just put you on the spot there, but I think when you look at the business purpose of a semantic model pre-Fabric, for Power BI, it was for analytical reporting to get a truth of data and your source of truth. That would be my definition. But it lived in Power BI. It lived in a report. It might have lived in a metric set or a scorecard, but for the most part, your definition was it's going to end stopgap in a Power BI report in some bar chart or table. Now, I mean, but more or less, okay. So let me ask you then. I'll pause there. Pre-Fabric, what's the business purpose of a semantic model?
Let's talk about what semantic model. I mean, so
yeah,
it's, to me, I think it is the pinch point at a lot of data things. Well, let me rephrase.
I like that.
Okay, right?
Yeah,
it is the pinch point.
T-shirt. Yeah.
Yeah, I build pinch points. That's kind of what I do, right? So think of it this way: we have so on one side of the world, we have all these really awesome tools, high scale, high volume, Spark, Gusto, SQL database, data warehouse, right? These are all, but they're all different tools. They can store data different ways. And to some effect, though, most of those tools, when you were looking in Azure, or even in Synapse for that matter, these all tools were very disjointed. None of them worked together. None of them played together. I didn't have the same common format under the hood for all of them. It was just a mess. So if I wanted to use a SQL database, I could only use a SQL database. I couldn't go hand some data over to a lakehouse, or I couldn't get data from a lakehouse into a database easily. Didn't work. So on that side, you have all this mess of just storing and transforming data. The semantic model is like, okay, I've taken some of this really weird non-structured data or tables and data. Now I've got definitions around it. Now at the semantic model level, I can say, look, I don't really know what questions I'm going to answer the business, but I do know if I aggregate these kinds of columns, they'll provide value. So now we can start talking about like what provides real business value. And this is where I think Kimball really comes into play here. Let's talk about the cuts of the data. How do we want to filter? How do we want to cut the data? What does the cube look like? And I'm not talking like MDX old cubes. I'm talking like semantic models. Let's not talk MDX cubes. Let's just talk about like, it's a cube, a mental model of data. I want to cut and slice and dice this data many different ways, because in my hundreds of billions of rows of table data, I'm looking for a handful of them that are going to tell me why sales are up or down, why we're not making money, what should we be doing, what's the trend, how do we compare from now till last year. That may take a lot of data points to aggregate up to get to the answers I need, but I don't necessarily know what I'm looking for until I really started getting access to the data and see what's going on there. So that to me, that's the pinch point. That's the part where everything in the data engineering side funnels down to the semantic model. And now on the other side, okay, on the reporting side, we now start expanding again. Back in the Power BI days, it was semantic model, report, semantic model, dashboard, semantic model, like what else? Like maybe metric sets or goals, whatever the heck they call it this day. I don't know. They keep changing the name or so. But like there was like three things. I only had three things to come out of the report, and I could do it analyze in Excel, right? So maybe four, right? Well, now the number of tools that I can use on the other side of the semantic model, we've now been able to leverage this. Now we have explorations. Now we have metric sets. We have goals. We have analyze in Excel, paginated reports, and now the reporting. So now we have all these other tools at our disposal on the other side. But at the end of the day, if you stand back, both of these proliferation on tools on either end of the spectrum, the data engineering tools all funnel down to the semantic model. The semantic model becomes your pinch point. And if you expand on the other side, we now have a proliferation of all these tools that need real-time querying in cache memory that's super fast. So when you make the semantic model super rock solid and this really solid, or I mean, I think it's like a keystone, right? You talk about like an archway. This is the keystone of the whole system. If you don't have that, you can't get the fast analytics on the one side. If you don't have the keystone, you don't know what you're building your data engineering to. And so back to your question, right? Let me really unwind here. You said, what's the point of SQL servers, the SQL analytics versus the semantic model? I think the semantic model is a tool to be used to build all these other data-like experiences that are easy to use. Now, we talk about skills of our users. I'm going to keep going back to this. We do this all the time.
I like where you're going.
We're going back to some users don't want to write SQL. Some users don't even want to use explorations. Some users just want to have a report given to them, and that's what they use. They work from that, and that's what they do their job with. Fine. We have a tool for that, right? But there are going to be other users who want more capability. So I think, if we look at the 30 million user base of Power BI that's out there right now, awesome. A lot of them are going to use just reports and standard stuff, but there's going to be a portion of them that are going to want a bit more. And so this is where I think the semantic model, and then going back upstream to like SQL servers, like, okay, here's all the tables that the semantic model lives on. Write your own SQL query, find your own analysis, figure out what's in the data that you care about. And then you should be able to do that. There are advanced users that you want to give more access further upstream to build their own things, because it'll take too long. It'll be too costly for you to stand back and let that user give you all the requirements, because they don't even know them yet. So it's faster for me to say, look, here's the SQL analytics endpoint. Here's the SQL database. Here's the SQL warehouse. Here's the notebook. I've made you a bunch of shortcuts into Lakehouse. Go have fun. Go figure stuff out. Get your job done.
Dude, I love all that you said, and I want to highlight some major points that you said, because they just deserve to be reiterated and really emphasized here. I was going down that path in my head, that scenario, but then you made a good point. Well, here's the thing. What consumer applications are there for the endpoint? And there are none. And and we're living in a world.
Well, maybe your Power Apps. That's like one maybe. Like I'd give it that a little bit.
But at the same time, that's not for the access. That's still to structure your data.
True.
More SQL endpoints, as great as they are not going to take the place of the structured data. They are giving you better ways to structure your data, but not the structure itself. And that still is where that primary semantic model comes in. The semantic model is the user-friendly way. And I think this is the big point that you're saying here. No matter what we're seeing, and as great as we're seeing with the SQL analytics endpoints and the databases, it in itself is not what I'm going to give a consumer, because there is no going to be application friendly for a consumer. Now, for a data scientist, we talked to Ginger about this, and we're like, why can't we just give them a semantic model because the data is already clean? And she kept saying they don't want that, which I still don't understand. But so this analytics endpoint and what we're doing with SQL is giving more and more abilities for transactional and for engineers and for scientists and for analysts to do things, more abilities than they've ever had before. But that does not take away the fact of how important structuring our data through a semantic model is. And I think what I was trying to play in my head is one going to take its place, but it's never going to be that way, because they really do serve those different functions here. And I love the idea here is we don't have a user application for SQL endpoints, and we're not going to. There's not going to be hey, here's Office 365 SQL for, you're going to open Excel and you're just going to connect to the entire data. They have that, and it's with the semantic model. So where we're going with this is, and I think about this as the future, is where would a BI team invest in this? And that's what I always want to think. I always like to think about when I ask these questions is, where should I invest? Where should my team invest? Where should my organization invest their time, money, and resources. And yeah, there should be a lot on the endpoint. There should be a lot for giving other analysts access to it. But that doesn't mean that the semantic model goes away.
No, and that semantic model, I mean, I'm even just Googling a couple documents here from Databricks. Databricks is even saying like, look, the semantic model is for the business user. I'm like, I agree. Like it is. Like the fact that I can go, like I was building reports and I was writing SQL statements. I was building tables of data using Power BI and then trying to make those same tables using SQL. It's a lot slower to write SQL to build a table than it is to drag and drop a table into Power BI.
The exploration feature alone.
So for that alone, I would say like that's why the semantic model exists. I can just drag fields to a table and have it appear. Like that makes sense to me. So like I love what your point is there, Tommy, and I agree with it wholeheartedly. There's a layer for this. There's different technical people that need to be addressing these different things. But I think like this article particularly, it's good that there's improvements coming. I also like the fact that SQL is getting some more love. It's getting better. It's this analytics endpoint is getting more features. Great. Everything that we're going to be dealing with the SQL, well, not everything, but like this API surface area that they're trying to address here with this some SQL analytics endpoint API, great. Dig it. I think this is going to be a big win. It's going to make our lives easier as we do more data engineering, but this is purely a story to the data engineers.
Yeah. I know we're getting into your time, but as I think about the journey of your own data at an organization, and I always I still have in my mind the map of just Power BI. It was data integration, transformation, semantic model, report. And there's almost now, once you get to that integration side where you can split them, because now I can say, you know what, I can provide a ton of teams and applications, cleaned data that I did through Fabric where I have that ability.
Yep.
And then I still get that data fed through the to the semantic model. But here's the thing. I think for a lot of organizations and for a lot of teams is there's a big investment that needs to happen with what you can do with the endpoint, because it really, to me, is still underutilized for things like Power Apps, for your AI, for just feeding that to other systems or to other lake houses too. It's incredible what you can do, but don't let that take the place of how important the semantic model is for you. What it's gold. So really, that's where I'm going to end on this. I love this. I can't wait to see what we're doing with SQL. It's a coming back to SQL moment.
Yeah, it's always been there. It's just more of like I'm now more aware of it. I think now, all I'll say is I've been having a great experience with SQL, the SQL endpoints, SQL databases, the SQL data warehouses. I'm finding a lot of value there. I personally am going to take a deeper look at a lot of them to figure out where I can use them more in my workloads. With that being said, we do appreciate you listening. This was a full episode of a lot of SQL talk. So it was hopefully a lot of fun for you at the beginning and a lot of fun here towards the end as we wrap up here and capture our thoughts around SQL. If you like this conversation, if you enjoyed this, we really do appreciate it if you would share it with somebody else. We know that this doesn't get out to everyone. If you find this valuable, likely someone else in your tech space may also find this valuable as well. Please share it with them. We'd love for you to communicate with them. And if nothing else, it opens up a conversation with somebody else about working with data things. That's it, Tommy. Where else can we find the podcast?
Oh my gosh, you can find us on Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast. Make sure to subscribe and leave a rating. It helps us out a ton. And share with a friend, since we do this for free. Do you have a question, idea, or topic that you want us to talk about in a future episode? Do you disagree with us about SQL? Well, head over to Power BI Tips/podcast. Leave your name and a great question. Join us live every Tuesday and Thursday, 7:30 a.m. and join the conversation on all Power BI Tips social media channels.
Awesome. Thank you all so much, and we'll see you next time.